All right. Hello. Today I'm going to go over a couple of things. One being the ability to fix your mistakes. If you have, let's say, overlapping faces, perhaps you have extruded a couple of times too many by accident, thereby not only overlapping faces, but you have extrusions that are unnecessary and almost unseen, practically unseen. This would be considered a bad mesh, a bad geometry, an unclean mesh, an unclean geometry, and so forth, so on, right? It has many terms, but it's the same definition. It comes in the form of not only overlapping faces, but also n-gons. That's N-Gon. And these are faces with more than 4 sides. Now, I've gone over this in other videos, but I think having a dedicated video is always good for learning and for growing. So I'm going to be very specific in only showing mistakes and then fixing them. I'll also be very specific about the tools I'm utilizing, ensuring that you can be a little bit more efficient and the like throughout the process of creating and modeling. And in addition, I'll be talking about tessellation, which is where there are too many vertices colliding together into one point. That is considered tessellation. All of which I have talked about in prior videos and also in class, if you're in class. Chances are the in-class community has most likely benefited a little bit more from my teaching, just because of the sort of hands-on approach that comes with it, right? So a couple of things may have missed your radar, so to speak, if you're an async, but these were laid out. Another thing that was suggested was a help sheet of sorts. Well, I already have one. This is already here. If you go to resources, a lot of stuff here, right? Obviously, this is just industry stuff, but we have a bunch of shortcuts for Substance Painter, which we'll get around to later. A bunch of errors and or fixes that you can take a look at when we get into Substance Painter. In regards to the shortcuts, that was highlighted in week 2 or 3, I believe, and we'll go ahead and check those. Yep, turns out it was actually in week 1, like I thought. So in here, obviously, as you know, if you are async, all of the demos are in the week modules. The lecture videos / demos, this section, definitely more or less, I would be considering that like an extra sort of layer of demos and videos. So yeah, go ahead and search for them in the week modules. But the shortcuts, so this is going to help you kind of work a little bit more efficiently and the like. These still apply to, even though it says 2016, it still applies, right? I have an updated version as well. Right here, right? Very, very simple sort of way to get your shortcuts and implement things such as that, so that you don't have to worry too much. Here we have Mac and Windows type views, still applicable today, and quite frankly, the UI looks very similar too, so nothing much has changed. This basically teaches you about Maya thoroughly. And it teaches you about just the sort of basics of how you can get into different components or just navigation in itself, right? Very simple sort of shortcut list as well, which is probably going to be most useful. So that is that. Digging into Maya again, in regards to what this demo is all about, is the way of fixing things. I want to fix things, but I need a bunch of mistakes first. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna find some mistakes. Let's say we have a model, and it's gonna be very hard for me to make mistakes, right? Right now I'm using shift. I'm holding down shift so that I can size my cube in a very interactive way and uniform way, right? Because you can be interactive and not uniform, but holding down shift makes the shape go up in scale and down in scale in a uniform manner. I went over how to make things, make shape population interactive a long time ago, probably like 4 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. But if you forgot, or you just it just also missed, you missed it in your radar, so to speak, you can go into, you're going to create polygon primitives, go down, interactive creation, and make sure it's checked. And that's how you do that. I went over that week 1. If you forgot though, that's for you. All good. So a couple of items to address here. First, we're going to make some mistakes. So let's go ahead and Control D to duplicate. And just make a couple cubes. Now let's say we wanted to extrude a little bit. We have Control E for extrusion, and we'll bring that out. Cool. Control E again. And let's just say that I kind of forgot. I forgot about that extrusion, right? I kind of go off and select outside of the object, and I'm doing something else. And then I come back and I'm like, oh man, I forgot to extrude this, but really I already extruded it. So Control E though. And I think that that's normal, right? And then you go in and doing stuff, blah, blah, blah. You'd start to find that, wait a minute, there are multiple things here. And I'll be honest, making a mistake is not easy for me. So let's just see if this actually worked, and it did. Okay, good. I made a mistake. This is great. Let's say you have a situation where you have done what I have just done, and you have a grave mistake here, and you have to fix these mistakes, etc. There are a couple ways to do it. If you have these overlapping faces, you're going to end up looking and seeing an anomaly like that, where it's like kind of all messed up and crazy looking, right? There's a sort of anomaly, a light anomaly. The normals are what sort of govern how the light hits in some, so to speak. I mean, there are various other factors, but normal maps are the main sort of bump map-ish pointer, if you want to call it that, and first stop for light interaction. Thus, if you have two overlapping faces, then what happens is you end up with a very confused system. It doesn't know what to do, so it ends up making weird light anomalies like that. Just look out for that. That's literally all you have to do. If you see something like this, that means you have overlapping faces, right? Let's say, and I'll hold down V so I can just snap this to that point, and I can kind of, pretend I'm starting over. Let's say we have a cube here that is, for the most part, all good and dandy. Doesn't really have any flaws to it or anything like that, or at least it doesn't seem to have flaws, right? But I want to ensure that that everything is okay. There are a couple things I can do to allow for the system to check for mistakes, so I don't have to look for them myself. And this is a good tool. Typically, I'll just find them myself, but I have a little bit more of a trained eye. So it's easy for me. However, see, it's very subtle, but I can definitely tell when there is just another sort of line hidden inside for whatever reason. And that's something that maybe isn't showing up on the recording, but I can see it. It's very subtle, but it's there. But let's say I don't have a trained eye quite yet. I will have one later, but not right now. Well, you can select your model, put in object mode, select, go to mesh, and go to cleanup, but don't you press that button yet. Go over to options box. This is what we call that. And we'll move that panel here. This is giving me an option of operation. I can either select a matching polygon or polygons that are unclean, right? Or I can have the polygons cleaned up and done away with or added on to, etc. I would rather it not do it for me, because the problem with that is you end up having a situation where it's going to make decisions for you, and usually it's not good. Let's just put it that way. Or it makes too many corrections. It's just ridiculous. Couple of items here. We have the tessellation. This is what I had talked about previously with you in regards to vertices and the like. Let's have it check for things within that category of tessellation. So make sure that sides are four-sided. Faces are four-sided. We'll keep the four-sided faces. We want them to check for this. Faces with more than four sides, because we want to get rid of that. We don't want that. That's an n-gon is what they call that. And n-gons should be gone. Concave faces, not a huge deal. Non-planar might be good to have. Faces with holes, right? And then just non-manifold geometry. This has to do with the normals in relationship to geometry, or just the geometry itself. Edges with zero length is sometimes a good thing to test out as well. If I hit apply, doesn't seem to be giving me anything, right? Apply. However, I'm wondering if it does give me something, but just on the inside of this cube. Doesn't appear to be doing that. So, interesting. Because in theory, I have a mistake right here. Chances are that it's actually... No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like it's not really telling me it's a mistake, so that's... Okay, so we'll close out of that, and that's that, right? Now, what if it's over here, though? And I have an overlapping face, or rather it's very small, and I have an overlapping face. I didn't really catch that on my own, right? Apply. Nothing happens. Wow. Okay, so that's not really functioning. So let's say you get into this situation where it's not functioning, right? It's not the end of the world. You can theoretically just, and I'll actually try it again, and you can do the same after deleting history. And you want to just select. Not saying anything. Okay. So if that's the case for you as well, then the other option is to go into object mode and simply do this. Make sure you're around the area of error, and then go into vertex face mode. Notice how notice how there's a line in between, or a very strange sort of face in between that's also reversed. in between these two faces. That's your extra face. Now let's say that we go back into vertex mode. I hold down V and I just snap it back to where it was. That doesn't merge it. Remember, that's just snapping it to another point or another vertex, right? Hold down V, snap. Merging would be merge to center, a sort of target weld, or just merge, which I'll be going over that along with all three of those and some others. So let's say you can't see it at all. You can't see your mistake at all. Hold down right click and vertex face. You'll still be able to see these mistakes and these errors if you go into vertex face mode. If you see a line in between other faces, such as this, this essentially means that there is another face in there somewhere. We don't want that. So what do? Well, we correct it. There are a couple ways to go about doing that, and one, the sort of longer way to go about it, which I've already taught in other ways, is to take the target weld tool and just hold click and drag to your desired destination. Now it is 1 vertices instead of 2. Another thing to note, if you need a heads-up display to count your, and I've already gone over this, but I'm gonna review, right? Display, heads-up display, and poly count. This is how we can count. That way, if we're here, we know we have 1 vertex selected. If we're here, we can see 2 vertices are selected. So one way is to target weld. The other is to simply do a merge to center, whereby we're not too concerned about what's merging into what. Thus, and we're also not concerned about how the line looks in regards to it being parallel to other edges. When I say line, I mean edge, right? So that edge, we weren't really concerned about how it looked. That's why I just did a target weld, and there we go, right? It merged to the other vertex. Now the other side of this is the merging into center sort of technique, and you can do that by going to this little target-looking icon. Sort of looks like the top of a cylinder or the top of a sphere, right? If you select that, after selecting both of the vertices, you want to merge to center, they will become 1 with each other, and there you are. No longer 2. You can also do this to just double check to see if you have 2 vertices. If it does this and it doesn't follow with another sort of angle, that probably means you have 2, right? If you do this, that definitely means you have 2. And for this one, I'll hold down V, I'll bring it down to there, and I'll do a merge to center again. I'll repeat that process here. Merge to center, and we're done. Very well. Now let's say things have gotten a little bit wild and out of hand. I need to essentially connect these 2 boxes, but in a fairly specific way, and I don't want to be hassled by all the other stuff, right? All the other techniques that are a little bit slower to actually combine a model, right? To not just combine, but rather to unify and make 1, right? If I take this and this, I can do a Control G and okay, it's a group, right? And you can double click and you can go box, whatever. The problem is that they're still separate, right? They might be in a group, and they're together in that group, but they're still their own individual sort of objects. Click out of that. I'm just going to set this up so that both of these can be messed around with. I'll go ahead and do an insert edge loop. So I'll click mesh, tools, insert edge loop, put an edge loop there, and perhaps an edge loop there. If you ever want to sort of do a stepping of sorts, let's say you oops. Well, actually, I'll get around to that in a bit. I want to just focus in on this real quick. So this is that. We're all set there. We're kind of ready to. Whoops. That's a mistake that can happen too. Keep in mind, it happens to the best of us, where you just leave a tool on. Go ahead and press Q on the keyboard to exit that tool. And then if you want to delete an edge, sometimes you can do that. You can go into Edit Mesh, delete edge and or vertex, and it shall disappear. Not always applicable, but sometimes it is. We'll then make something special here that we can play around with. I'm going to grab a face, this one here, and I'll just delete it. And I'll grab this face and I'll delete that. Whoops. Not sure what happened there. Oh my. Edit. Delete all by type. History. Object mode. Okay. Interesting. That's interesting, yes. Huh. Huh. Very fascinating. Okay, we have to. Wonder if I did something by accident here. Huh. Let's see if I can figure out what's going on here. Chances are I may have just made this individual thing clear, so I may have accidentally pressed something. I'm going to delete that, and then we'll just start over. That was strange. So interactive creation, again, right? We'll go ahead and bring that up. Mesh tools, insert edge loop, voila. Object mode, that's a hold right click, and then we'll press W and move it over a little bit. I'll press R on the keyboard. Let's just get this scaled down a little bit, and we'll line it back up again. One thing you can do to get items outside of the group is to select them with the middle mouse button and drag. You can also reorganize and kind of just generally organize everything that's needed. I think what happened there is that when I put it in the group, something just jumped out of the group. Maybe I even put it out of the group without, and I forgot. And therefore I got a weird mesh situation. So I'll select this one, select that one, go into face mode. I'm going to delete this face. And I'll hold right click again, face mode. Delete that face as well. Go into object mode and object mode just to kind of reset and check things out. I'd like to move this closer. So we've taken these, there's no longer a group. We've taken that, we deleted the other one, and I don't really need the group. That was just an example to show you what grouping does and doesn't do, which is to say things come together, but they're not actually unified and actually together, right? They're not connected. They may be combined, but they're not connected. What I'm doing now is I'm setting up a way to connect. And we're going to use a tool that uses a sort of distance threshold so that we can then combine things all at once, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is combine the two objects and their vertices of our choosing, of course, all together instead of going one by one with the target weld tool here, or one by one with the collapse tool, or one by one with merge to center, right? Instead, we're going to use just merge, and we're going to select what we want. But we need to combine, right? Very similar to making a group, but we'll just use this action. Go to mesh, scroll down underneath booleans and hit combine, and voila, we have one object here and the history of said objects. We can then go ahead and delete, whoops, don't want to delete that, delete all by type history so that we can get rid of that history and data. Remember, history is it's something you can manipulate. So you can go back to a bevel and adjust it. You can go back to a sort of subdivision number and adjust the value. Not always the case, but it can happen. You can go back and adjust very specific things, right? Whereas undo often gets, it gets a little mixed up where it's like, oh, well, isn't that just history? And it's just, no. History in Maya is a little different. It's data that's being held onto so that you can adjust things if you wish later, right? If we're in a happy place, we don't need that history. And this is why Maya will crash sometimes if you don't keep up with deleting of that history, right? But it's also what makes Maya powerful. The adaptability, the sort of ability to manipulate things even in a sort of distant future of sorts while you're creating. That's the difference there. So back to this, we go to vertex, and I don't want to do merge to center for every single one. It's just obnoxious, right? And remember, it has to be combined before we can operate like this, right? So if I select both of these, and perhaps I also shift select that one and that one. I may even want to adjust this so that it's closer. Always a good idea. We'll do the same here. Now move it over. Maybe we'll plop it right there. Nice and close to the other vertex. Good. We'll select this one, move that one over as well. We'll go ahead and pop those together. Okay. Now, I know for a fact that I'm going to have sort of n-gon right here. So one thing I'd like to do to avoid that is just to make sure that even those are connected to some extent. So here we have this, right? I could probably just leave this out and maybe just use this one, since if I don't use that one, I'll actually have a line that goes nowhere. And that's what would be considered an n-gon, because it'll create a side with more than 4 sides, and we don't want that. So we'll move this out of the way a little bit, and we'll just use these subdivisions instead, because those are the ones that line up and also have a whole a face that is missing, right? So now go ahead and select. You can actually just drag select all these now that we're in a position to do so, but be careful. Looks like I dragged a couple others. So get in position and just do another drag select while holding down shift, and you'll get rid of those selections. Get in a good position again, hold down shift, select those ones, those vertices, repeat. And now we'll go to merge to center, rather not merge to center, merge. And we're going to talk about how this works. So as you can see, nothing happened, right? The thing that's important to remember is that we need to adjust the threshold. The threshold is what keeps, is what's going to allow us to connect everything all at once. versus 1 by 1. So it's basically giving a command that says, hey, like if there are vertices that are close to each other, snap them together and merge. But only do it to the selected elements, right? Good practice is to just simply do something close by, not too far off. You don't want to go all the way to 1 because you might actually end up snapping to others. But if you have it selected, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And that's that. Now we have a lovely, lovely object connected to its partner there. I'm going to go ahead and select these just so we can identify that things are indeed connected and merged. I just need to take a better look, so I have to lift that up, right? There we are. Good there, and we'll select that, give it a wiggle. All good. Looks like it's all one piece there. And likewise here, Control Z, and likewise here, Control Z, and here is good too. So we now have a clean mesh, 4 sides here, 4 sides here, right? And the like all the way around. It's okay to have a couple of tries, meaning 3 sides, but don't do too many, right? This actually here, I'd like to just push out a little bit because it's actually not a try. It is an actual 4-sided face, so we're good. Thought it was a try for a second. It looked like one. And that's that. We could even just select that and move that up and down, right? Just to give it some character. Almost looks like a strange washing machine or something from the future of low polyness. There we are. Cool. So that's that. Just make sure that you keep your models clean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always remember 4. Do not do 5 sides. Do not do 6 sides. Try to avoid 3, but if you have to, I won't hate you. It's all right. But don't do too many, right? The reason for that is Unity automatically gives, or rather transforms, objects into having tries instead of quads for faces. Thus, having a try would exponentially increase the amount of faces. So you want to just keep it at quads as much as you can, because they're going to be split up anyways. Cool. Now, another element of this that's important, at least from my end, is, let's say we have a Boolean. And I did this in part 3 for the chess pieces, all right? I'm just going to throw that out there, but I'm going to review it. This is how you would clean up a Boolean. A Boolean union, as you know, because I've already taught you, is when 2 objects are coming together and being unified into one. Very different from combined, right? It's more similar to what we did when we fixed this combined mesh versus just grouping, right? And combining, right? You're actually, it basically will sort of create and delete faces and subdivisions if it needs to do so. Most of the time it's not very accurate, so you have to go in and clean up anyways. So don't just do a Boolean. And every time you do a Boolean, you have to make sure that your history is deleted, because it gets crazy. All right, so make sure everything's cleaned up and nice before you do a Boolean, because you're going to have to clean up again, and you don't want to overload the system when it comes to thinking about, oh, wait, there's supposed to be something here, and then all of a sudden it crashes, right? It happens. Washing, and double click, boolean. All right, cool. Select one, then select the other. Sometimes the order will matter. If you're doing a Boolean that is such as difference, it's going to kind of cut something out from your model, right? Control Z. This red line, don't freak out. This is what happens. You get a red line. It's because of history. You can just delete history. It'll go away. Along with that extra poly surface thing. Just goes away. It's all good. Edit. Delete all by type. History. Boom. Done. Gone. Control Z because I want this back. Now, whenever you delete things in this fashion, sometimes we end up with some issues where all of a sudden our materials are just missing and everything turns green, right? Hold right click, assign new material, and click one. I think we're using Lambert here, so we might as well do that for this one as well. So hold right click, assign Lambert. Looks like there's another one there. I'll just delete that poly surface and we'll start over. Let's say I want to darken it so you all can see a little bit more about on what I'm doing, etc. That's something that can happen. Not sure what's going on here. This is strange. Do I have an opacity thing going on? Yes, I do. Turn that opacity off and adjust this. There we go. Just so you can see a little better, because I think that gets a little iffy. There we go. And we're going to give this the same material. So if they have two different materials, keep in mind, we're actually going to close that. I'll show you where to go. When you have two different materials and you do a Boolean, usually you're going to get that green look, right? It means you lost your materials. You just have to apply a new material, right? In my case, I just undid stuff and somehow it got a little goofy, and they did have different materials, so that was probably part of it. But I'm not completely sure. But this is how you fix these weird anomalies. So hold right click over the other object and try to find and assign existing material, the same material that you utilized in my case for this weird washing machine. I'll then go ahead and select these two items and I'll do a mesh Boolean union, but just to illustrate or continue the illustration of the importance of selecting in a particular order. Last time I did this one, right, and we got that type of history there, or that result rather, where the actual box was subtracting volume out of this object, the washing object. So if I bring that up, whoops, just select that one and bring it up a little bit. Let's say I want to change things, right? Now, so green as a highlight is going to say that's just the most recent selection. White is going to be the previous selection, right? Now I am what appears to be, I'm not sure which way I selected that. Let's go ahead and do Boolean, difference A to B. Yeah. So I selected the same one, but now because of the order of my selection, it actually deleted some volume from the other object. So I'll undo that. Just wanted to throw that in to our little demo here today. But now let's fix up this strange situation with the box here going into the washing machine of sorts. We'll go ahead and select both of those. In this case with union, it does not matter which order it has been pressed in. Booleans and a union, they come together, everything's cool, right? Wrong. Nothing's ever cool. No, but in all seriousness, delete all by type, get that history deleted, and let's start afresh here. We'll actually go ahead and name this washing cubes. All right. And they are together, they are one, they're singing in harmony and frolicking through the extremely gray lands of Grid World in Autodesk Maya, right? Very happy pappy washing machine and box, okay? So selecting that again, you can see that it's all one entity, it's all one object. There are two that have been combined. However, that doesn't mean you're done. Oh no, you need to clean it up. Clean up your act. You're a mess. Alright? Go in here and get a multi-cut tool. Bada bing, bada boom. Grab this here and just click. Don't do anything yet. Follow along here. Notice when I press shift, I can actually select the middle portion of edges and such. Kind of a useful thing, just want to throw that in. If I click control and shift, I can actually go all the way across in a nice, very extremely straight line. Or I can go all the way up to that line, right? That edge. Excuse me. If I am holding, oh, the other one I have to do without actually clicking it, so we'll hold off on that one. So I'll go here. I'll just snap that how I like it right there. And I'm not going to do anything yet. And I'll just continue around. Sometimes your camera needs to be rotated. Remember that. If you get in a situation where it's like, oh yeah, I really want to put something over here, but you can't get to it, you get that little like do not go type of symbol or whatever the heck, no smoking symbol, whatever that is. Yeah, that means you just have to rotate your camera, or you genuinely can't cut into that because it's not a part of the same object. Or there's some dirty mesh or bad geometry going on, to which you would have to then fix in order to then move forward. So we'll just zip around here. Hold down shift maybe. Nah. Control shift. Yes. And see, now I can actually hit that edge because I'm rotated properly. It doesn't like to do this though. So I'll end it here and then I'll do it again. And that's fine. Sometimes it gets a little finicky. At this point, I'm at the right spot, so I'll just end it here. And I'll press enter because I'm done. Enter. For whatever reason, I've turned green again. Q on the keyboard, object mode, and assign existing, Lambert 3, and there we are. Part of the issue here, I can kind of see it. Notice that there's a light anomaly going on. And the reason why it turned green is because of that bad geometry. I think it kind of, once we fixed it, it sort of wanted to almost like the edges get reset in a weird way, and you get those light anomalies because it doesn't know whether to be soft or hard, and that's because you fixed something that was broken, and it just needs some help in thinking about what it is as an edge, and that can be done fairly easily. So if we just go like that, you'll see that little weird edge light anomaly there. Just barely, you can see it. We'll select there. We'll select that edge as well. And just to be safe, we'll go all the way around. So we'll click here perhaps, shift, hold down shift, double click, and it should go all the way around. If it doesn't, just finish it up. So we'll go shift, select, and here. Now, this is all dirty geometry. It's bad geometry right now. There's so many n-gons going on, it's out of control. We'll get around to them, but let's fix this edge first. I think this is important in regards to showing you how to soften or harden your edges and get rid of those light anomalies. We've already gone over this, but again, another review. Mesh display after your selection has been made. Select soften edge and voila. No light anomalies. Everything's fine and dandy. I believe I may have missed this one here, but that's alright. We'll figure it out later. And that's that. We have fixed what we have broken for that light anomaly in regards to a hard versus soft edge. Now we need to continue on with the multi-cut tool because we're having some issues here with regard to creating a lovely sort of no end-gone form, right? So now that we have this Boolean union, we want to make sure that not only those edges are soft or deliberately soft or hard, we want to make sure that we have clean geometry as well. So let's just keep on going around with this. I'll actually undo that because I want to show you something. If you hold down Shift before, or rather Control, excuse me. If you hold down Control before you actually click anything, you'll get a nice little, almost like an edge loop, or rather, it pretty much is an edge loop. It's kind of nice in that way, right? If you hold down Shift, it'll round up to a whatever percentage, and I'll show you what's happening here. Whoops. Oopsie. So watch this edge here. Actually, I'll do it like that. There we go. Okay. There we are. I think I have to actually be over here. So we're moving forward through this. There we go. Okay. Trying to get it so I can show you. Let me undo that. There we are. So the beauty of this is that you can actually have, if you shift select, usually you can see dots and such, but it's okay, you don't really need the dots. Notice how the percentage is rounded up to the 10 spot, like 60%, 70, 50, right? I'm holding down Shift and Control, and it's just rounding up for me. If I just have Control, then I'm kind of free form inserting this loop or subdivision. Thus, it's a little bit more inaccurate, or perhaps more accurate. It depends what you need it for, right? So holding down Control and Shift before you select, remember that, before you put any vertex down, that's how you get to this. If you were to select and then hold down Control and Shift, you get this guy, which is also awesome. And sometimes you can get nice angles. It's lovely. But anyways, I'll go ahead and undo that. I'm going to just go ahead and I'll go straight across here, shifting and then selecting. I'll do the same for here. Control Shift, select, Control Shift, or rather maybe just connect. I think that's better. There we are. Press Enter when you're done. There we are. And we'll do the same for this little guy, because we want to get 4 sides. Remember that, 4 sides only. Do not go above. Connect to that. Press Enter. Press Enter. I had to really slam it. There we go. Control Shift. And we're just cleaning things up here. Now, if you want to save some faces, but also save time, you could actually undo that one and just simply go over here to this point. Oh my goodness, there we are. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So less faces and more efficiency, right? We can't quite do the same here, just out of the way that it's actually constructed. So we'll just go ahead and follow that here all the way around. I don't mind connecting that cut over there though. There we go. It's good. So we have 1 try there. That's okay. And I'll go ahead and Control Shift. And that. Control Shift. And that. Control Shift. And that one. And then we'll just connect here. As for this guy, we can cheat a little bit. Put a little try right there. There you go. We'll do the same here just for expediency of the demo. And you would just follow along all the way around, making sure that you have only 4 sides. All right, here I'm catching another one right here, right? Do the same as we did on the top, and we're good. If it wants to cooperate. There we are. Wow, that was intense. All right, there we go. There we have it. A nice clean mesh. That is that. If you have more questions in regards to how to create objects in a clean fashion, please reach out. I want to make sure that you know how to 3D model with best practices in mind. I'm here for you. The TA is here for you. Enjoy the weather. Hopefully it's sunny. All right. Keep it real. And bye-bye.